Hello, everyone, and welcome to another Helm to Tower podcast. That's right, it's another time of the week where we talk about all things Destiny 2, in the video game Destiny 2, the hips and happenings in the game and outside of the game. We're going to talk about it this week. We're coming to you I think it'll probably be like a day or two later. But that's for good reason, because we had some raiding to do in the new raid. I'm Mike Burgess. We raided together Auri O'Neill this past weekend. We did some Crota's End. Crota's End was reprised, as we learned from the showcase a few weeks back now. And now it is in the game. And we ran it together. And also I ran it a second time again with my clan, literally hours before we recorded this. So we definitely will give our thoughts on all that and how our experience was getting into it, and just the general vibe from the community so far about contests and stuff is definitely cool to see. Outside of that, we had week 2 of Season of the Witch kickoff. We did have some week 2 story stuff happen. I'll probably let you take over for that because I admittedly don't remember everything because just a lot going on this week. For me, and then
Lore Lady reporting for duty.
That's right. And then we have also an interview with Joe Blackburn from PC Gamer that had some cool tidbits to talk about. Some fun stuff to talk about this week. But before we get into that, Auri, how are you doing?
Doing good. Season of the Witch vibes seem good now. Seems like a good vibe. Had some fun playing Destiny this week, knocking out grinds and trying out builds now that loadouts are working again.
Yes.
Thank goodness.
We were
suffering.
Very nice. Yeah, it was
it was a whole 7 days.
How spoiled we've
become
because of that. Yeah, I definitely held back, and I set up some builds myself as well. Briarbines, that new exotic, is pretty fun.
Super fun.
Pretty fun. I was actually messing around with the build of that this morning before I raided, and I found something fun is that you can pick up other people's souls with your Briarbine. So I was just doing a strike, and me and some other person were both doing that, but had Briarbines in the same strike, and literally we would just grab each other's and throw them out. And there was a point where I think we were doing the new Lake of Shadows, and that stupid meatball had 3 void souls on him at once because we just had stacked them up in various ways and just worked out that way. We had 3 up at all at the same time. So that's pretty fun. I like that. It's a fun one. Just send the void soul out, kill everything because it weakens it. That makes the void breaches and orbs and stuff. And then you can just kind of go in and grab it and grab everything, and you're devoured and have your void soul ready to go immediately again. And it's just a cool loop. I enjoy quite a bit already. So that's been pretty fun.
I messed around with doing Empowering Rift Void Soul with that too, because that gives you health back instead of ability energy. When you can get a bunch of those out, it is very fun. They don't tick faster to give you more health. It's going to be the same rate, but because you have so much coverage, if one of them gets destroyed or one of them disappears, you still have that up, so you're just regenerating health constantly. It's very fun.
That's fun. Very cool. That's been fun. I messed with it a little bit. I've been on the Vesper of Radius train and used that in our raid run, and I felt that was pretty good, especially in the part we were doing, because I pretty much every time we hit the bells in there, even though we were dying to plenty of things, but I feel we were pretty much what I wanted from it was to consistently have a rift at all times to just use that, and then it worked kind of perfectly as I wanted in that scenario where pretty much every time we got to a bell, I pretty much had a rift to just put down almost immediately, give our whole team arc souls so we could just cover each other and all that stuff, and just murdering everything.
Everybody hunkering around a circle and pointing in 6 different directions, and the arc souls just
going
everything
off, and
it was a very cool we're a squad hunkering down kind of vibe. It was really fun.
And the Vesper bursting thing too. So it's pretty fun. And one of the other encounters I used it for fun too, because it's I remember going over with somebody and then or with a sword or whatever, and then just being like, and then just like going up to one of the spawn doors and putting my rift down, and just watching dudes funnel out into it and just get hit by the burst, like, oh shit. And it was fun to just kind of like have that set up. So I like that a lot. I think I actually, you had your Helm report video go up recently as well. I think since the last episode we did.
Yes, and my piece on the final shape and kind of how I felt about all that.
Nice.
That went out, and the Helm report video, which again, Helm report is just what I'm gonna call my column from now on.
Nice.
Just because it pairs well with Helm.
Yeah, that's a good name. I like it.
Thank you. I talked about in the video part of it. I talked about just what I think the episodes could be about, and kind of the questions I have about that format. Like, new guns dropping on a 6-week basis. What does that look like? How many of them? Some stuff that we talked about last week with Cam and stuff, but more in depth on the lore and potential story implications. So I have a lot of theories about Revenant.
A lot of theories. I'd love to hear it. So yeah, definitely go check that out. But I'm probably also thinking about doing, in that same vein, maybe doing another like one-off video for myself of just like, hey, here's some builds I'm running this season that are just like I find fun. They're not going to be hot meta, quote unquote, but they will be like, I used both those. I didn't use the Briarbinds build, but I would probably imagine it would be pretty viable in some raid scenarios and later game content. And also my Vesper build was doing totally fine for most of that run. So I'll probably maybe make something just like fun like that, where it's just like, here's some builds I just like running because I've been doing that kind of stuff. And like I've been doing like a Gear Falcon like Hunter build. I went back to that and that's been fun. And yeah, it's just probably something you'll see from me maybe in like the next like couple weeks before I as much as I am liking this season, I'm also in the same boat as you of like good vibes for the season, but boy, there's just a lot of video game to like about to drop on us, and like I love Destiny, and like, but Destiny is a game that obviously we can like,
it's a forever game.
It's a forever game, and like I know by like week, we're in week 3, we'll see where the story leads now, but like we'll have a couple more weeks, and then we'll have like time to where it's just like, okay, this and this is coming out. I'm gonna put Destiny down for a little bit and go play some other things and enjoy myself. Like we were talking about it before. Like I playing Sea of Stars. Even right now, that's been pretty good. We did
well.
Yep. A similar video game in the vein of Destiny 2 called Wayfinder. I've been playing as well a bunch. You can go see the viewpoints on our main YouTube channel, Rational Passions, if you're interested in more MMO style RPG games. Like a Destiny, but it's like slightly more different. Yes. But it's in that vein. It's
Don't worry, we reference Destiny multiple times.
It's definitely can't get around it because it's
our brand
overlapping, and it also at this point. But yeah, just that idea of just like I definitely want to keep playing Destiny. I definitely we're going to talk about the Crota. We can talk about Crota second more in depth. But I definitely see myself wanting to run that raid more this season, and also I already put a message in our raid chat of just like I want to go farm spoils because boy, like they are actually way more important than they were before, and like just not having them can like really suck, especially in the weird moment we're in where like everything I have left to craft that I want to craft that's not like easily gettable, like the seasonal weapons are all the raid weapons now, and like to use those season pass things to even get an extra border, let alone like farming for them, like you need spoils to like even just use those. So now I just have one sitting in my inventory, and I know there's gonna be more in the past. So it's like I want to make sure I have all the spoils I need to just get those things clocked in when I can get those raid drops. So definitely something I want to look for. And also, I got a couple of those. I definitely had a better run of weapon drops in our run of Crota. Because 2 of the weapons I got from that I really like because I messed around with them also earlier today. Particularly, there's a pulse, rapid fire pulse from Crota with I got it with Demolitionist and Volt Shot. Ooh, that feels really good. It's really good. Then
with the origin trait too, like
it's
very good.
It's very good. I like it a whole lot. And then also I got the Strand Scout Rifle as well, and that is like a rapid fire, like scout leader style rapid fire scout. It's Strand. I got keep away kill clip on it, and that feels pretty good. I feel like that'd be a good like PvP thing. Maybe I don't know how keep away is in PvP these days, but maybe it is a little bit. But I know it can get like other things. Like it can get the new perk sword logic on it, and I think it can get like hatchling and like rewind rounds and stuff on it as well. So like it seems. Yeah. Like it could be pretty good as well. One of my clan members got the machine gun. It's just an arc machine gun, and they can get volt shot on apparently. So that sounds pretty sick. So definitely some good weapons. Seems like coming from that. Immediately when I first saw them, they didn't really stick out immediately. But then as soon as I got a couple of those to drop, I felt it again. I was like, okay, yep, I want to get some red borders. God damn it. Okay, here we go. Let's get into this raid.
I had that same thought. Yeah, I don't even have a crafted Rufus's Fury yet. Or like any of the Root of Nightmare guns. I would like them.
I have a couple, but I think it's like it's like the straggling weapons that are like I didn't prioritize from every raid is kind of where I'm at now, where it's less like I think I still even have some deep stone weapons left, but it's like I guess hand cannons are good now, so if I ever get the chance to run that again to try and get some red border hand cannons, that'd be nice, but like, I don't know if I'd ever really want to get the sword from that.
It's pretty good.
Yeah, but
I can get a like one for all surrounded on it, which is actually a pretty fun roll.
Okay. But yeah, like Root of Nightmares is similar, where it's like I think it's like I have the trace rifle left and like something else. I think it's like the sidearm and like just like a few random things, and then like as you get deeper in, it's like I have like less and less. I think from there.
The easier it is for me to farm a single encounter while it's farmable of a raid, the more likely it is that I have all of the guns, as is key with like the Deepstone Crypt, like Atrax farm, right?
Yeah,
have all the guns in that raid.
Yeah, it seems like that is definitely the case. And it seems like even this raid, Crota does have a boss that is very farmable.
Oh yeah.
So I'm
looking forward to it.
definitely want to do that to farm some spoils. And also the other thing is the exotic for the raid, Crota's End raid. Necrochasm has a quest. It is now a quest-based exotic, so that's like cool. But on the other end, boy,
running a lot.
Yeah, because there's basically like the first step you get is just like, hey, kill 100 thrall. They give you like a gray like version of Necrochasm or like the same similar thing. You just go, I just went to like the Grasp of Avarice dungeon opening and just sat there and murdered everything. Got 100 kills, did that, but now you need to start collecting oversouls, which they only drop from either randomly drop from the various raid encounters in Crota's End, or you can complete some of the triumphs and challenges for the raid, and those will also award you that. So you need 20 of them to get the completion. So it seems like once you get those 20, you are like done. So I don't know how you like acquire it. I don't know if you need to complete the raid after that to like get it from. That's the only thing I'm not sure about.
We don't know that quest step yet. So,
but I think I also heard you apparently might need some more also to get the catalyst from what I saw people saying, but I could be wrong. Because I know there is like a quest step to like do that, like a thing you do inside the raid. Like once you have Necrochasm, you like do this to like get the catalyst to drop for you. But I don't know if it's like a thing where it's like once you have the catalyst, you need to like get more oversouls to like complete it to get the catalyst. Will put all outlaw on the Necrochasm exotic version, which is pretty good.
It's a rapid fire. It's got the same perk it had from D1. It's not arc anymore, but it's basically headshots will cause cursed thrall explosion, and now like all the guns, that's part of the origin trait, which is cool. After a melee kill, kills with a weapon will cause cursed thrall explosions. But it has desperation, which is basically desperado, but also increases stability and aim assist on a precision kill. So that plus outlaw plus explosions plus a rapid fire frame, 720 RPM auto rifle that now goes up to 900 RPM SMG style, but with the range of an auto. Yeah, I want it very badly.
Yeah, it seems like it'll be pretty strong once you get all those things together. But it still seems pretty good, even without that catalyst. From what I've seen, like the little gameplay of some people running around with it and whatnot. So yeah, definitely seems like some farming is ahead of us for Crota. But for now, let's talk about like kind of what our experiences with each thing. So we ran it with our raid group. That was our first run. We did it post contest, so we did it like a couple hours after contest dropped. Contest definitely seemed pretty brutal for a lot of folks from what I was seeing. Like they definitely upped the ante on like enemy density on top of like they kind of put like a new kind of mechanic that's like center to all of the encounters in the raid now. So that's something you like have to manage throughout the whole raid now. So it seems like it was definitely pretty tough on top of like having to use the swords. Like it seems like you need a lot of extra swords to break Crota's shield, because that's like a whole new thing now as well, as you like get the swords like you did in D1, but now you have to like break a shield with like the supers of the swords and all kinds of other stuff, and that can make them damageable. But yeah, that's I think we definitely had that. I think our first run was that pretty typical like first run of any raid where it's like
getting your feet wet type deal.
Yeah, getting your feet wet. We definitely like made things like overcomplicated, but at the same time I think it's always because it's our first time and we're just trying to figure out mechanics and figure out things, and which but it's still a pretty good run.
Once we like got our momentum, I feel like we were doing pretty well.
Yeah,
but that first encounter was a lot for us up front.
Yeah. The first encounter is pretty rough when because it can easily just kind of throw everything to be kind of thrown disarray if like kind of people stray or get lost into kind of the mess of everything,
into nothingness,
or get smacked by a pendulum or eager edge into a pit or something. Which I definitely won't call anybody out, but I definitely saw it happen to somebody in our group. But it's fine. Because it's just
to be nice. It's
just a chaotic mess. And we're all learning it. And I will say, like now like you said, like we had to do a couple repetitions of that, and I think we definitely got better and better at it. Now we definitely know the route a little bit better. And I'll say like running again with another group. Something I definitely learned is that if you can whenever you get to one of those things, we were like dunking and trading. You can like dunk again to like give yourself more time, essentially, when like the timer is going down. Like you can dunk into those things to like basically like reset your time, essentially, when you do that. So that's like another aspect of it, of like why it's like good to potentially like just like dunk if you can dunk, because it can give you some extra time to do that. And I mean, like taking the chalice and dunking it into the deposits,
the podium.
Yeah. So that go ahead.
It was for me, like it was just a very difficult mechanic for me to visualize. It's tough, like when the last raid that we got is like the simplest raid that we have mechanically.
Yeah, right.
And this is not, I would say, the most complicated, certainly, but it has like one thing that has kind of like three different facets to it, and you have to be aware of all three of those things, or else you might get into a situation where you need to pass the chalice to someone and they can't take it and you can't pass it, and then you die, and then it's a nightmare, and now we're separated. And you have all of that like right up front. So it was tough for me to like visualize. There's a lot of rotations in this raid. Rotations. The raid.
I will say we definitely rotated a lot more than we needed to, and I think in the future. Sure. But I think it helped us. It helped us. It helped because eventually, because that way like everyone can like you said, visualize it and like see like, okay, I have the chalice now. I can get an idea of like what that means, and then like passing it or like putting it into a podium or whatever,
and the
like,
charge meter and stuff.
Charge meters, like having everybody at least have that general knowledge is always good, and that's why I like when we get raids like these, because it gets everybody involved. And then like I know like some people just like don't want to. I know like because I was this person when I first started getting into raiding in Destiny, and like everyone can be very apprehensive about like joining in on a mechanic or like learning it and being like the person that like quote unquote fails it. and like that like kind of adds an extra layer. So I know people like usually always back to like, I want to be the ad guy. Can I be the shooty guy? And it's just like, no, just come on, just like at least give it a chance. Like if if it ends up being too much of a problem, then like sure. But like more times than not, I think it's better to just try and learn and figure out these things, because even then if you're not involved in something, you can like be more aware or like give like pointers to things.
Exactly.
To, like,
you'll know what someone else is going through when they're like doing the role, right? Like
exactly
doing operator, for example, in the first encounter of Deepstone Crypt is like so immensely useful to understand like, oh, this is like, okay, now I know why I'm looking through the floor and conveying this information or right. whatever other role that you're doing and like passing the thing and where they are downstairs and all that's like, I have the most fun when I find the mechanic that I like the most in a raid.
Sure.
This raid is not like that in that everybody's going to have to do a little bit of something for the most part.
Yeah.
Especially
or behooves to get everybody into it. Yeah. Because then once you get to like an encounter like that, everybody needs to be involved. Granted, like, again, like, because when I did with my clan earlier today, we just had like, I think we literally just had 4 people doing the thing instead of the 6 for that first encounter, and that worked totally fine. Because they still made a rotation for themselves and went like, all right, I'm the first, and then it'll go to you, then I'll go to you, and so on and so forth. But usually they just kind of restarted, and that way, like, you had those 2 kind of flex people to just be like, if something went too awry, and somebody could grab it. But that's what we did for that. And then for the second counter, something I think we can do in the future, because it was largely what we did, where we did we did and essentially enlighten everybody, and then also like, but we were what did we do? We did 3 of us would get the enlighten buff or like pass around the chalice so we could dunk into the plates, and then we spread it to the other people and then got it again. So we can completely skip. I can tell you, matter of factly, we can completely skip us dunking to get it again, and then doing us 3 getting it again. We can just give it to everybody, and then the 6th and final person, when they get the chalice, they just go with the person over, and then they start it. And that's how we did it, and it was like the smoothest thing. I was just like, wow, this encounter is actually pretty easy. It's like it's not as crazy as we made it.
Over prepared for sure. And that was like when I was like realizing that I didn't understand how to do the thing, and I was like just trying to wrap my head around it. And I needed a lot of talking to, basically.
Yes.
I was having an existential crisis. But yeah, we also, like, the second time we did that encounter, we just did it, and it was like, oh, okay, well, I think we were just probably making this way harder than it was.
Yeah, absolutely. And like, for that, because that's also the thing where it's like, I think that's the safest thing, because then like we're even at the worst case scenario, and like somebody dies on the other side, and they need to get enlightened again. The person like one of the 2 people that are on the other side that went over can just grab the chalice back up and go back over and give it to them, and then they can just basically take their place that when they come back over. So
I will say, shout out to our team in that fight specifically. None of us died once.
Yeah,
it was like really nice.
I was gonna say
good job.
Yeah, once it's not as bad as it as we made it out for sure, and just kind of got through it. And we did it with the group. I did it with my clan. We did it on our first try, just doing that method that I laid out. And it's pretty easy and pretty simple. And just everyone, just stays up, and you have enough people around to like, even if somebody does go down, you can get somebody pretty easily in those initial parts. And as long as you have somebody who's like okay about being the last person to come over, and they know how to survive those scenarios and just stay alive, then you're pretty good. So that went that was pretty fun. And then like I feel like I think everybody's on the same page where it's just like once you get past that, like the second half of this raid is like significantly easier,
way chiller
than these 2 things. Not to say they're like people are going like it's a pushover, and I was like, I wouldn't go that far yet, maybe, but like you still have to be on your thing, and like again the mechanic like the getting the chalice, because you explain the actual mechanic we've been talking about for a bit, but like basically what they've added is this chalice mechanic where at you see it literally as soon as you start the raid, you pick it up, and in the buff debuff feed in the game, you'll see a chalice of light. That charges up over a period of time. You can also kill enemies, and it'll charge it faster. Once it is fully charged, somebody then has to grab it off of you to give you Enlighten buff, and they only have 10 seconds to do that if they don't do it within the 10 seconds. Once it's fully charged, then you get killed if you're holding the chalice. So basically, once that person grabs it off you, you become enlightened, and that lets you do various mechanics in the thing. Like in the first few things, it lets you kind of dunk it into the plate you're standing on to charge things, which speeds up the bridge building, or like creating the bridge itself and those initial parts of the encounter. And then in the later encounters, it lets you do things like when you're fighting Crota, for instance, the swords that spawned in that room, only enlightened people can pick up those swords to then start a damage phase for Crota. So those are kind of the big things that mechanic is now like across every encounter in the updated version of the raid. So that's kind of the big thing to like kind of learn. And I feel like obviously once you learn that, it's just kind of fitting it into the different things. But yeah,
I was thinking about it last night after laying in bed after playing 6 hours of Baldur's Gate after we raided for 5 hours. No big deal. Definitely got enough sleep for sure. And yeah, I it was like that point where it was warming on me, and I was really appreciating it. To me, like thinking about this raid, because it is like it's more compact. Like I imagine in a run where like we 1 or 2 try each encounter, it's like less than an hour easily, because there's just not possible, like a lot of stuff between encounters, right? Where most raids have like there's no jumping puzzle in this raid. Point of reference.
Nope, not really.
And it's not like missed by any means. It kind of puts it in that camp that I think of duality, where it's very combat focused. There's a lot of fighting. There's a lot of people to kill in this raid, a lot of hive. It's to me, I think of it. This is like storming the castle of the raid, right? Like we break in, we fight through the swamp, we build the bridge and cross the moat, we fight the second in command, and then we fight Crota, the king. And it's a big epic fight when it happens too. It's very, very visually that final room is incredible.
Yeah, the visual updates they made were really impressive. Like looks really good. I like a lot of that stuff. It looks like cool looking raid for sure. It seems like and then we talked about like that third encounter, which is like they basically like I think there was something similar to this in D1, right, where you had like fight a witch. Right before you fought Crota, but they like made it into like a proper encounter more so here than I think it was in D1, where basically now there are like a bunch of rooms closed off, and you have to go into these rooms and find witches to kill, and then once you kill them, that like basically starts the damage phase, and you just go right into it. The thing I learned with my group is that like we were pretty good about being on time with like finding those, and I think the thing that helped us like we were better about I think it was Nicole who was like doing the scouting and like going to each of the rooms. We definitely had to like get our crap together in the group we did today, because I was like doing it because we had a thing where like we knew we had to go to the rooms, but it was always that thing of just like everybody just tries to do it at once. So if everybody's going like, oh, I got this room, it's not the room, okay, we do this room, and that was like happening so much, and I literally like I think after like 3 waves I was less like stop. We're making a dedicated person, and then once we made
somebody has to go figure out where people go.
We ended up doing 2 dedicated people, and then like one person did like left or right, and then the left and right rooms in the back, and then there was somebody who was usually always like hanging out on the balcony anyway, even though it's kind of annoying that they kept hanging on the balcony, because they would like get stuff and they'd be like, you have to be down, like we're all down here fighting shit, and like to pass this buff. Please stay down here and just fight.
Please come back, please.
Yeah. And then
having like Nicole walking around each corner, she was using Witchender for folks listening. Because you need to be enlightened to go through these doorways. That's kind of how that mechanic's used. So you have to be passing the chalice the whole time. People have got to not be dying and stuff with that.
Yeah.
And there's 3 rooms, then 4 rooms, and 5, right, of the 7 that you have to go to.
Yep.
Although I can't see any reality where you don't like two-face this boss.
Yeah.
It's pretty chill, thankfully. Which I'm not complaining about, and it's fun because you're like fighting through to the middle and then fighting your way out. It's a really fun fight. But yeah, having that person going and be like, okay, it's going to be the top right, it's going to be the bottom left, and balcony middle, and just having people kind of break off one at a time to start getting their wizards down. I felt very good. That fight we did like almost perfectly on our first try. Somebody had to go like answer a phone call, so we wiped.
Yeah, that's right.
but then second try again, we nailed it.
Yeah,
we cool. That felt really good.
Yeah, just went right through it. And yeah, that's definitely the one where it's just like, okay, yeah, this feels. And now seeing people are using like Leviathan's breath and Div and like one phasing her now, or like people were like pulled out like what was it? There was something. Oh yes, people were doing the fucking
Heir Apparent.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking of. They dived an Heir Apparent and just one phased her, and it's like wow, like this. Yeah, here's it is. They gave us the bot, like the farming boss, basically, which is I personally appreciate when they do that, because it's just like I enjoy running the raid, but sometimes it's just nice to have that like quick and dirty, like let me just get like six of these done real quick and see, and like more likely get way more stuff out of this if I just do it this way. So that's definitely something I want to do in the future here. And then
me and Ear Ute about to spend a lot of time together.
We're gonna hang out with Ear Ute and looking at a lot of doors pretty soon here. But yeah, that's that fight, and then you have obviously then you fight Crota. I like the kind of always they have like the cool entrance where you like I'll have to stand on this crystal now. Cool. And then you like see like the big like thing, like the big hive looking face door, like spawn, and then he used to spawn like in the back of the room or something, right? But now he like spawns like right in front of you, and you're just like, oh hey, Crota's right here, what's up? And then then the fight starts, and then I think like the big difference was that like instead of trading that buff, that chalice, the chalice back and forth, there are like specific points in the map you have to go to, rather than just being able to do it anywhere. So like that's still pretty like it's still pretty manageable. That I found like that was always the thing. Like really what it comes down to, I've noticed like at least in the run we did today was just hoping that Crota was just not like hanging out by the plates, because we definitely had a couple hairy ones where it's just like, all right, I'm jumping up this one. Oh, Crota's already here. Quickly do it. And we had to like quickly do it before he just like freaking like blasts you in the face immediately. Because like I
liked our strat of like kind of hanging out by the stairs, and then somebody peeks out and he just starts sprinting towards the group. I thought that worked pretty well. Yeah.
Once you get into damage, it's pretty good for sure. And like it's like I like the now getting into like doing this the swords to break the shield, and then doing like DPS with the weapons. I think it's like a fun DPS phase.
Yes, me too.
You just slam it on with swords or fusion rifles. I did. We had some Titans doing the big fire slam, and then nice. It took us a couple tries, and then when I thought on the last try, I was like, all right, right, because I was on Hunter for that run, so I was like, let me do Fish Pants Arc Hunter, and I was Let me just say
it was working for Jake. So
Jake did. I think Jake did like 6 mil in his
6 mil.
I hit 6.5. So get fucking
hell yeah. He's never gonna listen to this.
Yeah, I know.
He's not.
Yeah, Nicole helps out with that one. So that was fun. The karma though on that one is I only got 3 arm gauntlets like for those last 3 encounters on Hunters, so I ended up not really getting anything out of it, so that was fun.
I mean, the red border chest, thankfully I got something, a gun, and I got like a scout rifle.
Yeah.
But yeah, I got 3 chest pieces on my run, so totally understand.
Yep. So that was just like, come on, dang, want some guns, but it's fine. Definitely, yeah. Again, I'm sure we're gonna farm that pretty soon here. At least I would like to figure that out with one of our groups. But I ultimately like it's they did the thing where they everyone memed on this. I did not I've talked about it before in previous episodes, but like I did not play enough D1 to do any kind of rating in that, so I did not and I never did any of the D1 raids, so they're pretty new to me in the grand scheme of things. I just kind of know from like general osmosis of Destiny creators talking about stuff, or like playing it on their own channels and like rewatching some of that old stuff years later. Always interesting to see it from that angle, but yeah, once you get a new raid and it's updated, it's a whole different beast. And I ultimately I like this. Like, I think it is, for me, it is that perfect kind of middle ground of like, it's once you kind of get down the mechanic, wrap your head around the mechanic, it's really just about execution on that rather than just like it's a couple people in the group executing, and then everybody else just kind of like mindlessly doing whatever and not paying attention to anything going on. You can do that for some encounters in here, and especially once you have a couple of people more apt to like passing buffs and doing things. Like, I feel like you can eventually probably do that with this one, but like I liked our run because we got everybody involved, and I always like when a raid pushes everybody to like get involved and like learn a mechanic, because that just makes like progressive runs more fun, because everybody can participate and like knows what's going on, rather than just like kind of sticking to what they know and not really like trying to like try out other stuff, or at least be willing to try stuff, even if if it's not kind of their thing. But
we're pretty good. I feel like we're good about trying different things too.
Yeah.
We like had a lot of different break, like, okay, let's try this.
Yeah.
And like I said, after the first encounter that took us like an hour and a half or whatever, we kind of breezed through everything else. Save for Crota took us long as well, but that was more of like us trying to get our damage down, and ended up needing that third wall of radiance. But it was fun. Yeah, like I said, storming the castle, fighting the king. That's kind of like what it feels like.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. I agree. Yeah.
It fits really well in with King's Fall. Like, if you did Crota's End and then did King's Fall, I feel like you would just have like one of the best 4 hours of gamings, like for the first time of your life in that night. Like, it's going to be a great time. I really think. And the Hive raids now, they're together again.
That is cool. Like, those they have those two big raids now in Destiny.
Yeah, we have almost all of them. Like,
we're almost,
if we can get Wrath and Leviathan back in Destiny 2, I think you will have all of the best experiences across all of the Destiny period. So I really hope that this because I had not run Crota's End before. I had like played up until the bridge encounter in D1, and with a group that was not nearly as fun to play with as us, let's say. And yeah, I ran Wrath of the Machine was the only raid that I ran like 4 times, which to me seemed like a lot back then.
Right. Yeah.
Obviously not.
Now it's
looking at my 56 clears of Deepstone Crypts, depressingly. But I really would love to see what they would do to Wrath, especially like that final fight is so epic, and the music is so good, and the visuals are so good. So hopefully in the next, maybe not next year because they're not committing to it yet, but in the next year and a half, we could see that reprised as well, and have the 4 D1 raids back together again. Because I think this is like a great raid. It fits into the D2 list very well.
That's after especially after like everyone memed on it so hard and being like, oh, they're gonna bring it back as a dungeon. That's how easy it is. People are gonna solo it. It's like, I mean, no, to kick people's asses. Yeah, and it was just like good to put them back into place.
And people loved it.
Yeah, and people liked it. Yeah, like, wow, they actually did it. Like, it's not a strike anymore. It's a goof or whatever. And like, yeah,
that's the last raid for sure.
It feels like it. Yeah, like you said, it fits in with the raids. Like, I'd put it like kind of middle in the pack in terms of like difficulty and challenge. And I'm sure that maybe will change once we get like more comfortable with some stuff and do some more runs and maybe think of optimal things or like ways to like work around some stuff. We'll have to see. But yeah, for right now, overall, I'm glad I was always kind of came in with like, I would have liked to seen Wrath maybe a little bit more, but like I'm still ultimately fine with this one being here in the game, and looking forward to playing some more, get some of the weapons crafted and stuff like that. I will say the one minor thing that I will gripe about with them is that the armor itself, while it looks cool, the glows themselves do not shade, and that's kind of lame. It's like they just stay that kind of like greenish blue, which like looks nice in the base armor, but then when you want to like shade it or change it, or maybe I want to make it look better with like a different thing, I wish they would have went the distance and let that be shaderable and something. That'd been cool. But
that could be something that they adjust in the future, because I feel like they would want to do that. But I will say the guns look very good with shaders, though.
Yeah, the guns do look very nice. I like that they kind of look like those bulky D1 guns, but they got like the kind of like the plating on them, but now they look a little nicer with like the kind of the green, a little bit more green glow to them, and like lights on them and stuff. So yeah, I like them, and again, I use that pulse rifle a little bit. Feels good. Demo volt shot, good combo.
It's such a good combo.
Feels good.
On a rapid fire too.
Yeah, that's gonna be a good pulse for sure. So yeah, good stuff. But other than that, before the raid came out, we had the whole week 2 of story content dropped on us. A lot more happened. I'll be honest. Like I said, I played through all of this stuff this week and remember bits and pieces. Like we did get like a new kind of animated cutscene, which is pretty cool. Kind of was a little bit more about talking. It was kind of like Eris kind of explaining sword logic more matter of factly to us. But yeah, other than that, like I don't know if you have, you can go into it more if you'd like about like what that stuff was, or I don't know if there's any more lore stuff that dropped this week that was like interesting or not. But.
Ooh, yeah, I don't know. I mean, you get the Crota stuff that's like harken back, like Necrochasm is a great poem from Eris from like Dark Below era D1.
Okay.
Oof, it's good. It's good stuff. Worth a read. It's a pretty short lore tab as well. Just like Touch of Malice and stuff had. Yeah, I mean, like that cutscene is just incredible. I think Morla, who plays Eris Morn, is just absolutely giving it a 10 out of 10 performance every time she steps in the booth. I think we get a nice check-in with the Drifter with Eris. He checks in on his moon dust, and she's just like, "Hey, are you here to patronize me?" Just like everybody else, he's like, "Nah, man.
Yeah, I'm just here to chill. What's it like being a hive god?" Yeah, I remember that now. Yeah, that was pretty good.
Yeah. It's great and it's sweet. They've built up like a really good subtle relationship between those two, where it's not like all handsy and whatever, but it's very sweet. And just Eris is the beating heart of Destiny. Like she's this character we've seen go through all this trauma and seen at her lowest low. I still think about that Shadowkeep cutscene where like all of the echoes of her, the nightmares of her fire team are just like crowding her, and she's just like, "Shut up!" Just screaming. And now to see how far she's come, where all these people are coming to check on her and see that she's okay and stuff like that, it just warms my heart.
Really, really cool stuff. And I'm I don't know if it's like, I think it's like 7 weeks of story, so we still have a lot to go.
5 more weeks.
Yeah, curious where that stuff goes, and there's definitely some interesting things still, like kind of secrets to uncover for like the activities and stuff. Because I think we just started getting the like attunement cards for like the different like solar, void, and arc ones. Those seem pretty strong. I don't know if you've looked at them too much. I know
what I have the solar one, so I'm not sure what the other two do.
The arc one straight up just does. The arc one is straight up is if deal arc damage and it jolts targets. So you literally just get free jolt. It's ridiculous.
Woo!
It's just free jolting for arc stuff from with that card, which is just kind of nuts to me.
That's awesome.
So that's they seem really strong. For sure. So more fun cards to unlock. And it seems like they're those ones they intentionally made weekly, because I tried the thing where it's like, okay, I got the arc one on my warlock. Let me see if I just go over to here and just immediately just picks up the thing and picks up that you like already know, that checks off that you already picked up the arc one on a character. It's like, dang it, can't get all 3 of them this week. But that's fine.
I got the solar one. I haven't found the cards for that, but the crystal thing is like anytime you pick up a solar crystal, you get restoration. I was like, oh, nice. Yeah, that's pretty sick.
Yeah, that's pretty good. So that's cool. And I found the secret chests as well this season. I remember that I did that as well. And if there's 2,
I didn't find it. Yeah.
So there's 2 secret chests. One of them is actually very funny, because it's when you go through the spire. It's like in that part when you you jump over the pit and there's the 2 swinging pendulum things. Right after you do like the first first big fight. If you turn to the right, there's like a little hallway, like on the same wall that you came up from. You jump in there, and there's just like a big hallway with a chest at the end. If you walk all the way to the end of the thing and grab it. It locks you in. The big axe dude you can't kill spawns in there with you, and like I luckily just like jumped around and ran for my life and like survived, and eventually it'll teleport you out. But I think it's also just like a troll, and he can just kind of just kill you, and you'd be spawned out of it.
That's funny.
So that was the first one, and then the other one had like it was a different kind of puzzle that wasn't like shooting the things. I think I can't remember exactly. I'm trying to remember because I did grab. Oh, what it was when you get to the first elevator, like the super speed elevators that almost kill you. Like when you take one up, and then you like jump across a pit. If you turn around and look underneath where that elevator starts, there's like one of those like deep sight things. You jump down to it, activate it, and then it makes like platforms, and like a wall like disappears, and the chest is like in that like hidden wall. Cool. So that's where those two. Those are the two I
found. The deep sight thing. Didn't find where to go after that. So I'll check again.
Yeah. So that's where the two like secret chests are this week, and that's I like that they like put those in there.
It's awesome. Love it.
I like that stuff for sure. So yeah, I guess again by the time you're probably listening to this, it'll already be week 3, so there'll probably be some other stuff we don't know yet because we're literally recording this the night before week 3 starts. Because we're starting a little later because we could get some Crota runs in.
And so I can play Baldur's Gate 3 yesterday.
So. Yeah. Yes, video games do be happening, a lot going on. Yeah. So we'll still try and keep up with episodes for a bit here, but we'll probably find our moments to break.
We'll take a break to the comeback before the new season.
Yeah, for sure. But after that though, I don't think there was too much else.
No.
Story wise, it was a good week
story wise, but that's it. I think
there wasn't too much else, and then we talked about a bunch of Crota, so that was all good. Week 3 is about to start. That'll be the first week of Iron Banner is here. I played talked about last episode, but I went on my Trials Degeneracy to get that armor. I did finish off all that armor. I don't know if I
did get all the armor too.
Well, yeah, nice. So
I got very lucky though. I didn't have to play that much Trials.
I was gonna say I reset my rank to get all that
yes.
crap. But
only
again,
one character.
But yes, so. I was gonna say again for me, I have 3. I play on all 3 characters, so I had to do a lot. But now I don't have to play PvP again for 3-4 months, so I'm cool with that as well. But yeah, that's all happenings in Destiny 2 for now, gameplay wise. Let's get into this. We had an article from Joe Blackburn, our interview with Joe Blackburn. It was from PC Gamer. It was Tim Clark over PC Gamer. He's done definitely a bunch of articles like this, interviewing Bungie devs and stuff. So he always has some really cool interviews over there. So this will be linked in our YouTube version. So youtube.com/HelmTower. If you want to go read the article yourself, I'll have the link in our description there to check out. But basically, he did kind of an interview with Joe Blackburn post the Final Shape kind of showcase, talking about a bunch of stuff, kind of doing the check on that. And there's some interesting things to talk about throughout here. So I'll kind of start off reading a couple things out here that he kind of. He gives kind of an overview of what he talked about with Joe and his things. So let's see. It's been 2 weeks since the mood music in Destiny 2 got so bad that the game director Joe Blackburn took to his personal Twitter to deliver a video message addressing various community complaints and concerns. For a studio that tends to deal in lengthy blog posts, such a personal approach only underlined the perceived urgency of the situation. Ironically, the latest meltdown had been triggered by one such state of the game post, which rather than allaying concerns, had airdropped petrol on them. So he put it. Yeah, that's a pretty fair way to put it.
Sure.
Destiny 2's community's laundry list of issues includes burnout with the seasonal model, aggressive monetization, the lack of attention lack of attention paid to PvP, and the complete abandonment of the Gambit mode. Hell, it's time to worry when the lore guys are lighting pitchforks.
I wouldn't say they were lighting pitchforks, but yeah.
Yes,
okay.
Yeah, definitely a little fair because definitely a lot of people were pretty upset. I would say even us a little bit included because we definitely talked. We were definitely pretty critical of that whole blog in our episode a couple weeks ago as well. None of this was helped by the fact that this year's big expansion, Lightfall, was substantially weaker than its predecessor, The Witch Queen, particularly in terms of its confusing narrative. Although Blackburn's video didn't address every complaint, mainly microtransactions were conspicuously absent.
They were.
It did serve as effective damage control, resetting the community's anger meter ahead of last week's showcase for the final shape expansion. So that's I think that's a pretty, I think like you said, he definitely,
that's how it felt. It was
fluffed up, but the vibes were bad for sure, and I think that video definitely did help a lot of people's worried and kind of fear of, not necessarily fear of like the game itself, but also fear of just like the community being more shittier for more is also I think a factor for sure.
Big factor.
So let's see. He goes on to say, during the showcase, Bungie outlined its plans for the last installment in the current saga, including a new enemy type, the surreal pale heart of the Traveler destination, and extra super abilities for 3 light subclasses. It also talked about what lies beyond, with a major switch coming to the seasonal model in the wake of next year's expansion. Watching the showcase, it felt relatively conservative in terms of reveals. Speaking of Blackburn later that week, I asked him whether Bungie's now entirely focused on sticking the landing to its decade-long story, particularly given Lightfall's rocky reception. And that's now we hear from Blackburn himself from here. That is kind of that is a way to kind of phrase it. He says, we're really trying to focus on what we do well. We've seen a bunch of other games, mostly in the single-player space, try to cap off a big chapter and how challenging it is. That challenge is also the reason why, as Blackburn explained in his video, the final shape isn't going to introduce major systemic changes like this year's Guardian Ranks feature. Instead, Bungie wants to double down on the core fantasies of Destiny. For Blackburn, that means weapons. When our weapons are good, Destiny is good. Is how
that's true.
He would say it. And that's pretty fair. Would definitely.
For example, Necrochasm. Good.
Necrochasm, good. Demolitionist Volt Shot Pulse Rifle from the raid. Good. Very good. So that's definitely a good way to put it. So let's see. This is how Tim goes on to say here. Over the last couple of seasons, I felt less compelled to craft god rolls with the new guns, largely because my arsenal is already so stacked. I also second that feeling. We definitely talked about that in Season of the Deep lot. Although I will say, going into this season so far, like even a couple of the seasonal weapons I've already crafted. And liking seeing they are pretty nice. Like I got the fusion crafted, and I'm starting to work on that. And I've crafted the strand rocket, but I've not leveled that up much yet. But yeah, I have a couple of those already working on. I think they're actually pretty easy because I've just been dumping them into like the weapon.
Oh, sure.
When I get the engrams, I just go to the kiosk and just dump them into the weapon specific one. And I've gotten a lot of ones just from that alone. So I've been cruising through a lot of those. Definitely much more liberal with those, I feel like, since in recent seasons, for sure.
That is great. I like to watch them stockpile so I can do it all at the end of the season.
Yeah, that's totally fair. So from here on, he says, despite the tireless work of the Sandbox team when it comes to creating new perks, it feels like we're running out of design space for new stuff. And I think this is from Blackburn comes in here. It says, you've obviously identified one of the reasons why. To do this right, it requires a shift of focus, not just on the weapons team, but in the leadership's teams, says Blackburn. I talk about this with exotic weapons and armor or anything we put in the game. Whether it's a new super or aspect, the law of diminishing returns means each one has to work harder to make an impact on your Guardian's loadout. We know that we have to do disruptive things to make that happen. So, that's totally fair. Definitely can feel that sometimes of like, I like SMGs, but now they've already made like 2 or 3 perfect SMGs in my mind, where it's like,
sure,
I have Callus Mini Tool, I have Icolos, and I have the Duality Void SMG. Like, I pretty much don't need any other SMGs in those camps beyond this, really, because those all work super well already and just super effective at everything. So, like, I don't feel like I ever need any other SMG besides those. I think of, like, what else? I think of, like, there are some auto rifles where I think that where it's just like, I have the Sweet Sorrow ARC auto rifle from a couple seasons ago, Season of the Chosen. Like, I don't need any other ARC auto rifles if they ever put one out ever again, because I just have a really good ARC auto rifle at this point. So it's like, I totally get what they're saying, right?
That's why, like, and Blackburn brings up in a second as well. Like the new archetypes, I think, are really exciting because they can fit into a niche in your loadout that wasn't there before. They have like right after this quote, there's just a great picture of the Lightfall destination weapons, or not Lightfall, Final Shape destination weapons.
Yeah.
And then just that top left, that support frame auto rifle.
Support frame auto rifle. And also, if we're going off similar, because like these have like similar like visual styles to them.
Yeah.
Like, I'm wondering if like all of these are like, I'm wondering if that's like a support frame shotgun.
Yeah, it has the heart on it.
It has like the heart on it, and like this has like some like the Vanguard like Zavala iconography on the thing, and like this does as well. Like the shotgun has a similar thing. Even that machine gun has like the heart on it as well. So I don't know if it's like just like Vanguard generalized stuff.
Seems like it. They all seem to have like Ikora, Cade, Zavala iconography on them.
Yeah, so it could just be like, they're like stash or whatever. So like they're different stuff. Ultimately, is kind of what it's going for. So that's pretty cool. So let's see. He goes on. Let's see. He gives an example of the Forbearance Grenade Launcher from the Valve Disciple Raid. Yes, that is definitely a weapon I use a whole lot because it is very good.
It's very good.
Which is best slot for clearing entire waves of enemies. Blackburn says the feeling of many players towards Forbearance is, holy shit, I'm never unequipping this thing. Yeah, it's definitely times when I can feel like that. I was like, I'm going into this encounter. This is a no-brainer weapon to just use.
Yep.
For sure. Yeah. And he says, so what the studio needs to do now is make something that changes how players feel about that. So yeah, that's definitely good. So here, I'll kind of skip ahead here. We have to think about in the ways the utility matters to players, says Blackburn. He points to the return of the iconic exotic weapon Galahorn, which now buffs teammates' rockets as a good example. Legendary weapons don't need to provide quite that level of utility to be desirable. For instance, there's a new perk this season called Heal Clip that restores health to allies and yourself when reloading after a kill. That is a way to gain support that allows players to still shoot things, but be able to provide meaningful ways to modify other players' outputs. I think you'll see us explore more of those angles, and that makes sense. Exciting. And that makes sense with like the support auto rifle and potentially more support weapons. And then they go on to say you can also see this philosophy at work in the new Banner of War aspect, which again that was not in contests, and that quickly became available in contests, and you can definitely see how effective you can see how effective that was in the new raid. And I honestly am here for it because like I actually really appreciate that thing in that vein, right? Of like for so long we have the different styles of like Warlock have been support for so long, and like but that's because they like heal a lot better than every other class does. But there's also other ways to support other than just outright healing, and I think that's why I very much like the Banner of War thing, because it dives into the fantasy of the Titan being a tank character and being able to tank things. So now they have Banner of War. You can do Stronghold and literally be unkillable 1v1 in Crota with that setup, and I've seen people do that already. It's really cool. It's freaking awesome. Like, and he even just like doing general strikes and like being like, I'm just this force that can just kind of push ahead and just like, go through everything. I still think they can maybe dial Banner back a little bit and it still be effective, just because I feel like even now, like, you can kind of be sort of brainless with it in a lot of scenarios where I feel like if they make it more like I need to proc this and be more mindful of like how I'm tanking things and dealing with things, I think it could still be very effective. But just that idea, like that was again, I think something I remember way back when Witch Queen came out and we got Void 3.0 and being like, okay, as a Sentinel Titan, I can give people over shields and like give support and defenses in a different way and feel more like a tank. Like this goes into that even further now with this strand aspect. So like, I like this kind of stuff, and I definitely hope they continue with those ideas of like having more support ideas of how to survive encounters rather than just just having a big well or like healing stuff outright. Yes. That's the only thing you have.
It's like the synergy too that's exciting. Like you can use heal clip and then reload your gun and heal yourself and allies around you and proc Ember of Benevolence, and now your healing grenade is charging faster, and it's just everything. Once you like get that kind of keyword working well enough and it starts feeding into the subclasses and this whole system they've been working on redoing for like the last 2 years, it's like, oh yeah, like this all is great and works so well. I'm so stoked about it.
I like this stuff, and it's definitely if that's where they're heading, like I'm all in for this kind of stuff, and having more like utility options and things that like people can do rather than just that for sure. So from there, they go on to I'll skip ahead here. Speaking of utility, 2 of the 3 new light supers revealed in the showcase lean into team play. Fighting Titans will be able to throw axes that explode and can then be picked up by teammates, while Solar Warlocks can buff all their core abilities and the weapon damage of their allies. The burning elephant in the room is whether or not that would be compelling enough for Warlocks to switch off Well of Radiance, which has been ubiquitous since it was added to Destiny 2 due to its mix of damage boosting and survivability. I asked Blackburn if he's confident the new Super Solar can clear that bar, and he says, I'm confident right now that the new Solar Super is very good. He says, I'm not confident that without Well of Radiance changes, it doesn't just become that you need to do 2 Warlocks, and one of them is going to run well, and the other is going to run the Super. Dun, dun, dun.
Dun, dun, dun. My cockles just got unrested. I can feel the hairs on the back of my neck standing up.
Yeah. They've talked. They did a quote unquote Well of Radiance nerf a while ago, exactly. It was a big quotations of like I really did not do much.
No overshield. Oh no.
Yeah, the amount of healing it does is still so insane that it doesn't matter anyway. So I can see that idea of like them having. I could see them, with this idea of like this buffing weapon damage. Well, them maybe taking some of the
taking that out. Yeah,
maybe not removing it entirely, but maybe lowering the amount of damage that the well will give when you're standing inside of it. I could see that maybe being what they do. But it sounds like final shape is maybe when they finally kind of take a crack at that thing and
it's coming.
See where it goes.
Like the next part here is them talking about the eras of the game and having the Divinity era when that was 25% debuff and stuff like that, and how these nerfs changed that. Like, it's been 6 years of Well of Radiance.
Yeah,
it has been a long time.
I was gonna say stuff like along this line too of just like it's had its time. Like Well's had its time since Forsaken in Destiny 2.
Yes,
like literally. So like it has always been the thing that has like been a default to that. So like to finally have maybe things that can push away from that, like support frame weapons can also probably change that a lot, right? So like having those kind of things to heal people in certain combat scenarios rather than having people just stand in a well or like everybody's fighting Crota right now and just throwing down like 3 or 4 wells.
And he's breaking them. To be fair, like the first boss that's like doing that ever.
Just smashing it. Yeah, finally.
It's one of those things where like the only thing that makes me trepidatious is we have been in this era of Destiny for so long. It's hard to imagine certain fights without it.
Sure.
That doesn't mean it's not possible. It's scary. It's a scary time. Yeah. But boy, howdy, it's definitely going to make that final shape, final boss way more stressful for those first roll teams,
Yeah. It's going to be way more intense. You have to...
there were 4 Wells of Radiance on world first teams in Crota. For point of reference, 4. 4 Warlocks.
So and going down to potentially none, or maybe just to 1 or 2. Like, it just depends on what that, obviously it will depend very highly on what the actual encounter calls for.
Yeah.
Because I think like Well was not as much a thing in Ron. I feel like I could be wrong. Like, I think it was still there, but not as like you have 4 Wells, right? They maybe
outside of the final boss, not really.
Like 1 or 2, but
definitely helps for both boss fights. But we weren't like hunkering down in a way of like we would be dead otherwise if we weren't in this in the same capacity at least.
Yeah, for sure. And then just to I'll say the full line here of what here Blackburn said is we've had to do this before with things like Divinity and auto reloading. At some point you're like, hey, this super provides utility that a lot of players like, but we are handcuffing a bunch of players too. So what's the version of this where we can say, okay, the time for everyone feeling like they have to run this is over. We know that before we have to make some changes before the Final Shape raid. That surely is the nerf confirmed. So yeah, there will at least be changes to it. And it seems like that's the thing where it's just like, it seems like they want to push it in the direction of you don't have to run it, but if you like running it, you probably still can. And they've done that with stuff before, right? Like we had, I think of like, Laurel E. Titan. Like Laurel E. Titan, as soon as that came out, like everybody wanted to run it, but then they nerfed it and made it seem like people were like, oh, I shouldn't run anymore because it's bad now. And it turns out like, no, it's still very good. It's still very good. And you can still totally run it for a lot of things. But it's not the necessary thing.
Autoloading is a very good, I think, comparison for this. Although that was more like 2 years, it was like just before Forsaken to after that.
Yeah, definitely not last as long, but there's definitely a lot of like auto loading for DPS stuff and like feeling like you had to be.
And that stuff sucked. I'm gonna be honest, like that stuff was super boring and I didn't like it.
Sure.
But I'm excited to potentially enter several new eras of the game.
And I think that will also like definitely push to like the game feeling like different and like fresh, is like pushing people to like use different things that maybe potentially already exist in the game, or like new things they have to add, with like people using this new solar super to buff people instead, or like having more other stuff being ran on other classes. Like I'm all for that for sure. From here, they kind of switch and bring up, hey, we got new light subclasses in this, but we're not getting the darkness subclasses. Joe kind of elaborates on that. And they said the rationale for it is largely thematic, is how it's put. And these are Joe's words himself. He says, you are literally inside the Traveler, and the Traveler needs your help. How is the Traveler going to help you? So, I think we talked about that a little bit ourselves. Just like, it makes sense. That it makes a lot more sense why we're also getting that. And also something to point out, I forgot to bring it up I'll bring up the TWAB from this week, because they actually talked about there being stasis stuff.
Yes.
Next season. So let me bring up that real quick and I'll get the wording from that. Once we get into that. So before we get that, let's see what else. Let's see.
I was going to say, he talks about how the rumors that Strand was supposed to be part of Witch Queen, and he says, that's not true.
Yes.
No one's going to believe him, but that's not.
Yeah. Basically, there's definitely a big theory of like people thought Strand was going to be with Witch Queen, like you said, and then here these are the words Joe says himself. You're going to get a big scoop here. He says Strand was never designed for Witch Queen. For one thing, it just takes us longer than a year cycle to make a whole new damage type. Even the green correlation is really funny to us because Strand didn't start from someone writing green power on the whiteboard. It's very funny, because it's also very funny because there's still totally people who are on like the hard copium train that the red subclass is still a thing. People just going red power, and it's like things that same thing of like that's all people are just yelling now because it's like it's real.
Yeah, we'll get it eventually. I'm sure.
That's funny.
Everybody calm down.
It's very funny just to see people still doing that. Instead, he says that in the same way that stasis thematically fit the blasted tundra of Beyond Light, so Strand suited the neon synth waviness of Lightfall. Strand was all Lightfall all the time, reiterates Blackburn. I'm sure some people will never believe me unless they can go and see the flag fluttering on the moon. Is how he puts it.
Good reference, also.
That's pretty fun.
I agree. Also, Strand definitely fits the aesthetic of Neomuna in the same way that Stasis fit the aesthetic of Europa.
Yep, agreed.
So
yeah, ultimately it makes sense there, and that is totally fine.
Also worth noting that now that we're 2 weeks into nerfed Strand is still very good.
Yeah, Strand totally fine. Obviously, the new aspects are definitely bolstering a lot of that, but like I think it still feels totally fine. You're right. And then back again to the TWAB. The TWAB just had a brief thing I just wanted to mention because Stasis came up. Yeah, and they talk about why it's not getting that. But literally the little blurb just says, "But what about Stasis?" So this is from the past week's TWAB. This is on the 31st. So this is what they say straight up. Says, for our Stasis lovers out there, we have some things coming up regarding your Stasis abilities in Season 23. Not only will the seasonal artifact feature Stasis perks, but there'll also be some Stasis ability changes coming, including Glacial Quake, Frost Pulse, Winter's Shroud, Glacier Grenade, and more. We will have an artifact and abilities preview with more details as we get closer to the Season 23 launch. So there you go. Stasis buffs or changes incoming. That's good to hear. I'm glad. Shout out to Glacial Quake getting called out because, boy, that super still just feels not great, and I hope they maybe make it feel better. I know it can be super effective and do some decent damage in certain scenarios, but I kind of would rather have that. Frost Pulse. I feel like Frost Pulse. If I'm hoping what they do is make it like basically how whatchamacallit works now.
Oh, like Vesper Radius.
Where Vesper does multiple pulses. Like I think that's what they might do is Frost Pulse, but we could see. I don't know.
That's so like exotic territory, right? Like it's tough.
For sure. But I could see it working. I feel like if Glacial Quake is being changed, I think like maybe they're making like Stasis Crystal changes in general potentially.
That could be good.
Because they also mentioned Glacier Grenade specifically, so I'm curious if that's gonna be adjusted. And then I think Winter Shroud is the Hunter super, or is that the Warlock?
No, the super is like the Sickle and Death or whatever. It's got like two names. Winter Shroud, I think, is one of the Hunter aspects.
I'm looking it up. Winter Shroud. Let's see. Dodging slows nearby targets. So yes, that is one of the hunters.
It's Frost Pulse.
Frost Pulse.
My god.
Yeah. So there's a couple of things that's pretty cool. I still hope that like they said it'll be more. So I'm hoping maybe.
I'd love some fragments. Some new fragments would be great.
Some fragments. Like one thing because like, again, I think this has been a general sentiment at the moment is like Stasis feel like it's fallen behind a little bit with a lot of things. And something that made me recognize maybe why that or Stasis is something is missing is every subclass we have in the game now has like a positive like buff or verb effect that we can apply to like yourself or others, and Stasis does not have that anymore or at all, right? Like I think of like Solar, we have like Radiant or like Cure or Restoration, so there's a bunch of stuff there. Solar or like Void, we have like Invisibility or Void Overshields. Even Strand, which is a Darkness subclass, also has Woven Mail, or like what is it, the like the Unraveling Rounds and stuff like that as well. Stasis doesn't really have anything like that, so I think that could be one big thing that they could do with Stasis. I can't really think off the top of my head what that would be, because I don't think they would just give everybody like free like freezing or like that effects. I think that could go poorly. Like I think that's like the tricky thing about Stasis, right? Of just being like, hey, just proc this and your rounds will just freeze everything all the time. Like I feel like that'd be too much, right? Like for people. Sure, but like I think that might be like too much. But so like
for sure,
I'm curious what they could do with that. Like I could see maybe like them doing like some kind of like giving somebody like a little like mini like snowstorm around them to give them like a little like defense buff or something like that could like help maybe.
Frozen Mail.
Yeah, basically.
Armor of Agathis energy. I love it.
Some icy armor. I'd be down for that for sure. I'd be hopeful like maybe that's something they look at, but we'll have to see if that's in the cards for this. This sounds maybe more just like they're buffing some abilities for right now. That would be my guess. what we're going to get for now, and then we might have to still wait
a
till
full stasis rework would be exciting, because like I feel like when they made it, they were thinking of the darkness subclasses being more about debuffs and locking things down, and then once they started shifting all the subclasses to kind of lean into that fantasy, it left stasis behind kind of in the headspace that it fills. So I'd like to see it updated of like where does stasis fit into this sandbox?
Yeah, that's definitely something that I want them to figure out for sure and kind of update things. I just feel like at this point it feels like it's going to be something that probably comes after Final Shape now. Unfortunately, because like I think we'll get some buffs probably next season, and that'll be cool. And like they said, a seasonal artifact that'll be stasis focused. Maybe like we saw with like they updated one of the exotics with seasonal perks in mind, so we could see like previews of stuff next season of like ideas they have for improving stasis stuff with perks next season. So that could be potentially cool. But I think the actual rework that we're kind of talking about here, though,
it's a bigger project.
And I imagine that's probably maybe after that. So is what it is.
Something to think about.
Something to think about. Let them cook. They'll figure stuff out, I'm sure. So skip ahead here a little bit because they talk a little bit about it, but like they want to make sure the witness as a raid boss is a big deal. They don't want to and they also say they kind of mentioned about like we're only getting subjugators as enemies, and we're not getting any like kind of like new rank and file enemies. And I think they put a point. Blackburn made a point of that, which I thought was interesting. So I'll read that blurb here real quick. As for the lack of new rank and file enemies, Blackburn argues that creating a bunch of new dreg level units wouldn't be interesting. He compares the core combat in Destiny 2 to a skateboarding game in which the tricks you're stringing together instead involve shooting aliens in the head. In that scenario, switching out the basic enemies doesn't make much difference in the overall experience. Instead, he points to the additions of Wyverns and Beyond Light as a better use of design effort. We want to focus on the big bads that are going to move the needle. It's going to be Hive Guardians, it's going to be Tormentors, it's going to be Subjugators. Things that we put on the battlefield that make it feel more interesting and dynamic. So
this is the most Jeff Gersman-esque comparison I've ever heard from Joe Blackburn. I love it, to be fair. It's like it made me think of him so specifically the skateboarding. I don't think of Destiny like that, but that's really funny.
Yeah, I see what he's saying though. Just like using the rank and file to like get what you need to do, and then like figure out how to do more damage to these other things or focus on these other things and work up to them. So yeah, I can kind of see what they're saying, and like I think for me, like I've kind of I definitely see what he's coming from, and like largely I think it's fine. Like we're not getting new stuff. We're not getting stuff in the new Final Shape. That's fine. I think the subjugators will make their presence much more known, and whether that'll be one of those things where it's just like I feel like once we're in game and like fighting them, it'll be more of like okay, shit, these are guys you want to worry about. I think that's just that those will have to like be things we have to play in the game to really get the feel for how that presence feels in the battlefield. In terms of rank and file stuff, like a new enemy race, like I think like I'd still like to see that in the future. I think ultimately at the end of the day, but I'd be fine if them again it being more of like tied to like a story conceit of like we're in this new universe or like we've traveled to a new galaxy or whatever, and now we're like seeing like a new race there, and maybe that's how we're introduced to new enemies that way. Still would be nice to see that for sure, but I understand that's like not really the focus right now, and I think that'll be again things they can visit beyond or post the saga. Still,
to his point, like he's right. Like the Tormentors and stuff, and Hive Guardians, like they do move the needle more. Like anytime they show up on the field, it's like, oh, I want to deal with you right away. And I love that fighting Tormentors. I said it when we did our Lightfall review and stuff. Like it's my favorite enemy to fight in Destiny, hands down, bar none. So fun. You have to shoot at different parts of them throughout the fight. Even something as minor as that is significant and fun. Yeah. And I forgot like how Wyverns were added in Beyond Light and how that was kind of a big deal.
Yeah, like Wyverns and those big like what are they? I forget what they're called, but like the tanky fallen things.
Oh, Briggs, yeah.
Briggs, like those are both had in Beyond Light. We're not really made like a big deal out of, but it's like, oh yeah, these are like new enemy.
They are a big deal though.
new enemy units that like have a different way of fighting them, and are like those like these are big enemies in the battlefield that we have to like make sure we focus on or like take out. So yeah, I'm totally for that for sure. I don't mind that being where they're kind of focused on with that kind of stuff. From there, he talks a little bit about they kind of alluded to it in the discussion with how people were going to see the conclusion. They kind of talked about like the witnesses, the raid boss for the final shape. So like that's who you'll be fighting in the raid. But it seems like with the you can kind of infer from I'll read it here in a second, but you can kind of infer from it that like maybe once the raid is completed, it seems like it'll open up the actual like final mission for the expansion itself. So I'll just go ahead and read here. It says, Bungie has already confirmed that the confrontation with the Witness will take place in the Final Shapes raid, but also promised that non-raiders will experience the climax of the story in full, including the defeat of the Witness, assuming we win, of course. Blackburn says that the denouement won't just be a cutscene. He explains that whereas the Witch Queen and Lightfall campaigns each had 8 missions, the Final Shape will ship with 7 on day 1, the implication being that the 8th mission unlocks for everyone once the raid has been beaten. He also indicates that the format of that mission will be different to the boss encounter against Savathun and Callus from previous campaigns. When we did the Witness, it just didn't pass the sniff test, so we knew we needed a different strategy. So yeah, there you go. That seems like we're gonna have an eighth mission. It sounds like it's gonna be pretty different from the final mission. That makes me think it is gonna be more like
an epilogue,
but also maybe like another like thing we're doing each week to like fight or combat. Like that like is gonna be some kind of like how usually when we complete the raid thing, a bunch of things unlock. Like we will get this finale mission, but it'll be something that like we have to do like this extra thing to truly take down the Witness or whatever, and that involves getting a 6-player match-made activity to like get together with friends. It's not a raid. So or it's gonna be like I also think of like the thing that's kind of this season and like the things they've done in the past where it is like maybe there will be something that then starts happening in the world, because they said the Pale Heart will like evolve, and maybe it is like an area you go into the Pale Heart and like do some kind of like activity, and like since it's in the open world, like people can just show up and in and out of it to like have this bigger fight that you need to have like a bunch of people, more people than normal, than just doing like a 3-player like squad activity or something. Or, this would be a big, I think this would make it kind of a meme. So I don't think they're going to do this. Just make it like a strike or something. It's like, it's the final thing is a strike, and that's like a new strike or whatever. But I think people being like, oh, wow, we killed the Witness in a strike. What the hell? Would probably not go over well. So I don't think
we just talked about Crota, and his salt. So
yeah,
people
exactly.
Would be upset.
So yeah. Very curious what that means, because it sounds like it will be a mission style thing that unlocks, but it won't be just like a standard single player mission at the same time as kind of how they're describing it here. So
yeah,
interesting. Let's see where else they go. They go on next to start talking about the story episode content that that bunch our Destiny's gonna shift into after this, so we can see a little bit of. See what he's saying here. I don't remember that there's too big much things in here that we haven't really already known.
Yeah, nothing like too big. They talk about he can't say whether or not the episodes will stay longer than the following whatever happens. Like, are they going to get sunset? We don't know.
Yeah,
I think he says we're not talking. Yeah, I don't think we're talking about that yet.
Yeah. So they're still trying to figure out that cadence and stuff. That stuff is still like, again, that's post Destiny 2, and like I think where they are not post Final Shape rather, and like usually like we've heard about their seasonal cadences, like they are like basically just starting to develop this episodic content like now, I would imagine. So like they're probably still in the very early stages of what that actually is going to look like. So we probably really won't know much until Final Shape is out, really.
We did get some breakout questions that were like speedrun Q&A is what they call it, to the side. And there was one that I just want to point out. If Witch Queen was a psychic detective story and Lightfall is an 80s action homage, what is the touchstone for Final Shape? And Blackburn said some mixture between The Lord of the Rings and Apocalypse Now.
Yeah.
That sounds awesome.
Yeah, it sounds pretty awesome. And I can definitely see it because it's
totally.
We're rushing into the final battle, but it's also like trippy and weird at the same time because we're going through this crazy war.
We're going to Mount Doom, you know?
Yeah, exactly. Going to Mount Doom but in this crazy world. But yeah, I mean, like largely, we can, he talks about like PvP stuff a little bit and like why there wasn't a PvP team there, but I don't think we have to spend too much time on that stuff.
Yeah, he reiterates that they're recommitting to.
They're recommitting to it, and then like that's all we have. I think that's largely it for the article. But yeah, a lot of cool little extra details in there.
Yeah.
Brace for that Well of Radiance nerf sometime soon.
Probably I assume we will be reading that nerf like in the patch notes when we're waiting to log into the Final Shape. Like that is when it's going to happen, and it will be the last thing.
They're just gonna drop it on us like that.
Just like Heart of Inmost Light going into, what was that, Witch Queen?
Yeah, right.
or Lightfall. It was one of the two, but yeah, I think that is when we will find out exactly what that nerf is. So don't look forward to knowing what it is.
Yeah. So yeah, that's interesting for sure. Stuff looking forward to, some extra details there for Final Shape. Pretty cool. Yeah, and I think again, like you said, Tim Clark said at the top of that article of just like they definitely seem like they're keeping a lot of things still held close for the Final Shape, and I think that a lot of that is because they're really focused on just delivering like a really good story and campaign and Destiny like experience rather than like building on to Destiny to make it a larger thing. Because I think we'll get that thing next season, right? Of like we're gonna get the Fire Team Finder next season, and that's gonna be like a pretty big addition to the game for sure, having proper in-game LFG. But yeah, that'll definitely be a big thing next season. But like obviously we're not getting like a big thing like that with Final Shape, and I think that's because it's so focused on things. So I feel like it's going to be interesting, like what kind of stuff they will show to us through now, because a lot of times they drop big blogs on us, or they do like a lot of trailers to like show more things, and like I'm sort of looking at it here, and it's just like I mean like. I guess they could show us a little bit more of like what the places look like, the destination itself looks like. I guess when we get closer to that, they've done trailers with them in the past, like show off exotics and things like that. I guess at some point,
yeah, gun like the legendary guns as well.
Yeah,
that are going to be spruced throughout the destination.
Yeah,
and I think like there will be some stuff for Lance Reddick and stuff, because Final Shape is when we're going to start getting Keith David there. So. Yeah. Things to help with that transition. But yeah, I think it's better to play this close to the chest, to be honest, because like we all want to be surprised going in there. Day one when we go into the campaign, and day 5 when we go into the raid. So like,
yeah, I'm with you, and I feel like at this point we probably will not hear. You'll probably not see anything for Final Shape again. Probably, I would imagine maybe like around Game Awards time, because I know they usually have Destiny trailers at that event. I feel like that would be the next time we hear anything more substantial about the Final Shape at this point, because they don't have much to say. And obviously we still have the rest of the season of the Witch, and then a whole another season after that to go, which we don't even really fully know where that's going yet. Obviously, we don't even know what that season's about at all.
Yeah, we just know it's connected to this season and the Final Shape intimately. So it feels like the momentum's very good right now. We are coming off of a dark period. Yeah. The vibes are good. People are chill. People are happy with Crota and the contest experience, and are now like more optimistically looking forward to that Final Shape final raid. So we just gotta like cruise for a little bit and survive the fall of endless video games.
Yeah.
And I think we'll be all right. Once we hit January, we'll start getting a lot of information about guns and whatnot.
Yeah. I agree. I think for now, just enjoy what we're getting. Because that season's been good. I'm liking the story stuff so far. Crota's fun. So yeah, good enough to just enjoy this stuff now, and then, I'll probably be. I myself know I will probably be, like I think I said at the top of the show, probably be jumping in and out of Destiny a lot in the next 2 months, especially just because of all the new games are coming out. There's gonna be tons of stuff. Like, I'm still back and forth about something like Starfield. Like, I know that's like very imminent. By the time, it's like people are already playing it because they got it early. I thought about getting on Game Pass, but now like I read reviews. And I was like, a lot of the stuff I'm reading here is like the stuff I didn't like about these previous games. So I feel like it would just be me being kind of a grump about that game rather than. So maybe I'd rather just go play some of their stuff in the meantime. It's kind of where I'm leaning towards at the moment.
Plenty to do right now.
Yeah. Plus some other stuff is coming out soon enough besides Starfield that I would like to maybe look at.
Just 2 months away from the game of the generation coming out, Alan Wake 2. So.
Alan Wake 2, that's right. And also friggin' Super Mario Wonder is like right there too. And that looks incredible. Like
I've never been excited for a 2D Mario game, but here we are.
It's pretty much the same here. Like, it's been a very long time since I was like, hell yeah, 2D Mario game. Like, it just looks so fresh and vibrant and cool. But anyway, a random video game tangent is over. I think we can wrap up this episode of the Helm to Tower podcast. Thanks everybody as always for hanging out with me and Auri every week here on the channel on youtube.com/Helm to Tower or on our podcast services wherever, if you're listening there, wherever you're listening or watching. Always appreciate it. Feel free to drop a rating on podcast stuff or comments on YouTube. Let us know what you think of the show, what you're enjoying. If there's just like topics, in general, you maybe want us to talk about on the episodes in the future, feel free to just, throw those in the comments and I'll take a look and we'll definitely bring them up in future episodes. But yeah, we'll be back probably next week, maybe talk some more story stuff, and then we'll figure it out from there. If we'll figure out a good point where maybe we'll take a week or two off again, like kind of how we've done in the past, just kind of, do some other things and play some other stuff, and always gonna jump back into Destiny when the going's good for sure. But thanks everybody. See you next time. Bye.